Hello, everybody. My name is Nightfrox. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, then welcome. Today we are doing something a little different from what we normally do. I'm going to be reading Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, which is a novel that is now also a webtoon. So, what we're going to be doing is comparing how similar the novel is to the webtoon. You guys seemed really interested in getting somebody who has only read the webtoon and not the novel, and having them compare the novel and the webtoon. So that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go ahead and get the novel up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to read the novel. It's going to be off screen. If you guys know a really good place to read the chapter, because I was just kind of looking around because it was actually kind of difficult for me to find where to read the novel. Right now I'm on novel chapter. So if there's another place to read it in English, that would be great. I'm not sure if the novel is originally Korean or not. I assume it is. But let me know if there's other places that you found that are better, and I'll read that in the future. But for now, I'm going to read it off of here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the novel first. The chapter 0 is what we're starting on. And then we'll go through the webtoon, and we'll talk about kind of some of the differences. So that way we're not going back and forth. We're reading the novel, and then we're focusing on the webtoon. We've already read the webtoon. I have a whole series about reading the webtoon, so I'm not going to sit and read word for word the webtoon. If that's something you're interested in, then feel free. There's a whole playlist of it. But this is what we're going to do. So, we're starting with the prologue. Prologue. There are 3 ways to survive in a ruined world. There are 3 ways to survive in a ruined world. Now, I have forgotten a few, but one thing is certain. The fact that you are reading this now, the fact that you, goodness gracious, I can't read. The fact that you who are reading this now will survive. 3 ways to survive in a ruined world. A wet platform filled the screen of my old smartphone. I scrolled down and then up again. How many times have I been doing this? Really? This is the end? I looked again, and the complete was unmistakable. The story was over. 3 Ways to Survive in a Ruined World was a feature-length fantasy novel with 3,149 chapters. Its shortened name was Ways of Survival. I have been steadily reading this novel since the 3rd year of middle school. During the time when I was bullied by Ilgins, I'm not sure what the word Ilgins means. So if somebody knows, let me know. When I ruined my entrance examinations and had to enter a local university, when the damned random draw went wrong, and I was placed in the military unit at the forefront when I repeatedly switched jobs and am now working as a contractor for an affiliate of a large company. Damn, let's stop talking about this. Anyway, the epilogue still remains. The next chapter is really the last one. From the end of childhood to adulthood, it had been done over a huge period of 10 years. There was a mixture of despondency that a world was coming to an end along with a sense of satisfaction. I opened the comment box of the last message and rewrote the sentence several times. Kim Dakcha. Writer, thank you for everything in the meantime. I'm looking forward to the epilogue. They were sincere sentences. English has left my body. Ways of Survival was my life's novel. It wasn't the most popular, but it was the best novel for me. There were many words I wanted to say, but I couldn't write them. I was afraid that my careless words would hurt the writer. An average of 1.9 hits per chapter, an average of 1.8 comments. This was the average popularity index of Ways of Survival. The number of views for the chapter was 1,200, but it fell to 120 for the 10th chapter and then 12 for the 50th chapter. By the time it was the 100th chapter, it was only 1. Hits equals 1. Excuse me. I was overwhelmed by the feeling I got when I saw the numerous 1 that appeared next to the list of chapters. In some cases, there was a 2, but it was likely someone pressing the wrong button. Thank you. The author published a novel with more than 3,000 chapters with just 1 hit per chapter over a period of 10 years. It was truly a story just for me. I pressed on the recommendation board and immediately started tapping on the keyboard. I am recommending a Honey Jam novel. The author wrote me a free completed novel, so I should give him a recommendation. I clicked on the completed button and comments quickly appeared. It looks like a new auntie. I searched for this person's ID and they recommended the same novel several times. Isn't his recommendation banned? The author shouldn't do this here. It occurred to me that I had written a recommendation several months ago. In an instant, there were dozens of comments for investigation by spectators. My face flushed with embarrassment. I was sure that the author would read this, so I hurriedly tried to delete the message, but it was already reported that the message couldn't be removed. It was upsetting to think that the recommendation written with all my sincerity turned out like this. If they even looked a little bit, why didn't anyone try reading the interesting novel? I wanted to give a donation to the writer, but I couldn't afford it because I was a salary worker barely able to make a living. Then I received a notification that a message has arrived. TLS123, thank you. A message flew in from out of nowhere. It took me a while to grasp the situation. Kim Dokja. The author? TLS123. It was the author of Ways of Survival. TLS123. I was able to complete it to the end thanks to you. I also won the competition. I couldn't believe it. Ways of Survival won a competition? Kim Dokja. Congratulations. What is the competition? TLS123. You won't know it because it is an unknown competition. I wonder if he lied because he was ashamed. I wanted it to be true. Perhaps I really didn't know it might be a bit hit on other platforms. Perhaps I really didn't know. It might be a big hit on other platforms. I was a little sad, but it was good to have an excellent story spreading. TLS123. I would like to send a special gift to you as a thank you. Kim Dokja. Gift? TLS123. It is thanks to my dear reader that this story has come into the world. I gave the writer my email address and he asked. TLS123. Right. I got the monetization schedule. Kim Dokja. Wow, really? When will it start? This masterpiece should have been paid from the beginning. It was a lie. The Ways of Survival was a daily series, so I would have had spent 3,001 a month. 3,001 was one convenience store lunch for me. TLS123. The monetization starts tomorrow. Kim Dokja. Then the epilogue coming tomorrow will be paid. TLS123. Yes, I'm afraid you need to pay for it. Kim Dokja. Okay, of course. Of course I have to pay. I will buy the last one. There was no reply from the author afterward. I logged out of the site. Then I felt the pessimism sink in later. After left without a reply after he succeeded, my admiration turned into petty jealousy. What was I so excited for? In any case, it wasn't my novel. Will he give a gift certificate? It would be good if it's for 50,000 won. 50,000 won in US dollars, I believe, is approximately $4 something, I believe. Let's see. At that time, I was thinking naively. I didn't know anything about what would happen to the world the next day. Okay, so that's the end of episode 0 for the novel. So this is chapter 1. So real quick, starting off, so we get right away, this is the last episode the swiping up and down, instead of it being said, obviously it's more visualized in the webtoon. And then the really, is that it? The end. So it kind of seems more in the webtoon that, like, in the novel, he's more like, I need to send a thank you note or something to the writer. What do I say to him without making it seem like maybe I'm mocking him or something? Whereas in the webtoon, it's more of, really, is that it? The end, you know? And then the bus, or he's on the subway station. And then it looks like maybe from here, we start with the next episode. So we'll continue reading the novel then. So really the only thing from chapter 0 that we got was the swiping up and down on the last episode. It does make a little bit more sense with it being a webtoon that it is more condensed, so it's going to leave some smaller details out that maybe novel readers really liked, as more of an efficient way of doing things, because you only have so much time to make the webtoon, especially if it's a weekly series. And I know some webtoon designers on here, some creators, have said that it takes them a full 40 hours a week to create just one episode. So, and that's if it's a 10 to 15 minute episode, not a 20 to 30 minute. So let's go ahead and go back over here. I'm Daksha. Daksha equals can mean only son or reader. I usually introduce myself to people like this. Then the following misunderstanding would occur. Oh, are you an only child? I am, but that isn't what I mean. Huh? Then, my name is Daksha, Kim Daksha. Kim Daksha, Kim, highly respected only son. My father gave me that name to be a strong man by myself. However, thanks to the name my father gave me, I turned out to be just a normal, single, and lonely man. In short, it was like this. I was Kim Daksha, 28 years old and single. My hobby was reading web novels on the subway. Then I'll go on my smartphone. In a noisy subway, I was raised my head reflexively. A pair of curious eyes were staring straight at me. They belonged to an employee from the human resources team, Yu Sanga. Ah, hello. Are you going home from work? Yes. What about you, Yu Sanga? I'm not sure what it means at the end. I'm sure it's Korean for something, but I don't know. I was lucky. The manager went on a business trip today. Yu Sanga sat down soon as the seat next to me became vacant. A subtle scent came from her shoulders, making me nervous. Do you normally take the subway? That, Yu Sanga made a dark expression. Okay, so she's saying that, like, kind of long. Come to think of it, this was the first time I'd met Yu Sanga on a subway train. Starting with personal manager Kang to finance manager Han, there were rumors that Yu Sanga had men from the company driving her home every workday. Yet unexpected words came from Yu Sanga's mouth. Someone stole my bicycle. Bicycle? You commute by bike? Yes. I have a lot of overtime these days and seem to be lacking exercise. It is a bit annoying, but it is worth doing. Aha, I see. Yu Sanga smiled, looking closer at her. I could understand the feelings men held toward her. However, it was none of my business. Every person had a genre of life, and Yu Sanga was someone who lived a genre different from myself. After the awkward conversation, we looked at our phones. I opened up the novel app I was reading on before while Yu Sanga. What was this? Por favor, dinero. Huh? Spanish. I see. What does it mean? Please give me some money, Yu Sanga replied proudly. Studying on the subway while going home, she truly had a genre different from me. However, what was the use of memorizing words? You're working hard. By the way, what is Daksha C? Is that how you say it? C? looking at? Yusanga's gaze was fixed on the LCD screen of my smartphone. Is it a novel? Yes, well, I am studying Korean. Wow, I also love novels. I haven't been able to read lately because I don't have time. It was surprising. Yusanga liked reading novels? Murakami Haruki, Raymond Carver, On Kang, I thought so. Dakja, what writers do you like? You won't know even if I say their names. I've read a lot of novels. Who are the authors? At this time, it was really hard to say that I read web novels as a hobby. I glanced at the title of the novel in the app, The World After the Fall. Author Sing Shing Shang. The author uses this name of his previous novel and his author name, but with slight changes. I decided to go with the actual novel translation name. So I think maybe this was a little note here. I couldn't say that I was reading The World After the Fall, but I'm not sure. The World After the Fall by Sing Shing Shang. It is just a fantasy novel that, well, like The Lord of the Rings. Yusanga's eyes widened. Aha! Lord of the Rings! I've seen the movie. The movie is good. The silence continued for a moment. Yusanga was looking at me like she was waiting for me to say something. Our conversation was becoming strained, so I decided to change the topic. It has been a year since I joined the company. This is my last year. Time moves really fast. Yes, at that time, we both knew nothing, right? That's right. It seems like just yesterday, but the contract period is already over. I realized that I said something wrong when I saw Yusanga's expression. I had forgotten. Yusanga received credit for a foreign buyer last month and was already promoted to full-time employee. Right. My congratulations are late. I'm sorry. I should have worked hard to study a foreign language. No, Dakja. There is still the performance review, and I hated to admit it, but the sight of Yusanga talking was wonderful. It was like the world's spotlight was shining down on only one person. If this world was a novel, the protagonist would be such a person. In fact, it was the inevitable result. I hadn't tried, but Yusanga made an effort. I just read novels on the internet, while Yusanga studied hard. It was natural that Yusanga would become a full-time employee and that my contract would be terminated. That, Dakja, yes. If you don't mind, would you like to know the app I use? Yusanga's voice momentarily became distant. It felt that like the world was far away. I braced my mind and stared straight ahead. A boy was sitting in the seat opposite me on the train. He was 10 years old or so. The boy held an insect collecting net as he sat next to his mother, laughing happily. Dakja? What if I had a different life from now? I mean, what if my life genre was different? If the genre of my life wasn't realism but fantasy, could I be the protagonist? I didn't know. It would probably be unknown forever. It is okay, Yusanga, huh? It won't work even if you tell me the app. The genre of my life was obviously realism. Dakja has a solo life, huh? What? I'm just someone like that. In this genre, I wasn't a protagonist but a solo person. The life of a solo. Yusanga had a serious expression on her face. However, I waved my hands to show it was really okay. I didn't know, but the person was really worried about me. Maybe because she was part of the personal department. I was already aware of my performance, though. Dakja is really good, yes? Then I will live in Ivory life. Sanga equals Ivory. Yusanga seemed to have decided something as she turned back to studying Spanish. I gazed at her for a while before returning to the novel. Everything had returned to normal, but strangely, my scrolling of the novel didn't go well. Maybe it was because I realized the weight of reality that I couldn't scroll down. At that time, a notification appeared at the top of my smartphone. You have one new mail. It was from the author of Ways of Survival. I opened the mail. Reader Nim. My novel will become become paid from 7 p.m. This will be helpful. Good luck. One attachment. The author said he would give me a gift. What was the gift? Like the name, I was also a reader by nature, so I was excited to receive the mail. Yes, it wasn't bad living as a reader. I checked the time. It was 6:55. I had exactly 5 minutes before the novel became monetized at 7 p.m. Then I opened up my list of preferred novels in the app. Since I was the only reader, I should leave a congratulatory comment and give strength to the author. However, the work doesn't exist. I tried typing ruined several times in the search box, but the result was the same. The bulletin board for Ways of Survival had disappeared without a trace. It was strange. Had there ever been a case of a novel being deleted without notification when it was going to be monetized? At that moment, the subway lights turned off, and the inside of the train became dark. Keek! The subway train, or actually that wasn't a person. That was the train, so it's going keek! The subway train shook loudly and let out a metallic sound. It caused Yusanga to scream and grab my arm. Then I heard the sound of other people getting stirred up. Yusanga gripped my arm so tightly that I paid more attention to the pain in my left arm than the sudden stop. It took a dozen seconds for the train to stop fully. Then I heard confused voices coming from everywhere. What? What is this? In the dark, one of the two smartphone lights turned on. Yusanga still held my left arm tightly, and she asked, "What is going on?" I pretended to be unconcerned. "Don't worry, it isn't a big deal." "Is that so?" "Yes, it is probably a disturbance from a suicide. The engineer will soon make an announcement." Otto. So there we go already with, I'm reacting to the novel now, with the novel being a little bit more darker. As I finished speaking, I heard the engineer's announcement, telling all passengers on the train. The loud surroundings became calm. I sighed and opened my mouth. "See, it isn't a big deal. Now an apology will air, and the power will come back on. Everyone, run away! Run!" What? There was a beeping sound and the broadcast turned off. The inside of the train became a mess. Dakja? What is this? A bright light flashed from the front of the subway train. There was a loud drumming sound followed by a pop. Something was heading this way in the darkness. It was just a coincidence that I saw the clock at this moment, 7:00 p.m. Tick. It felt like the world was stopping. Then I heard a voice. "The free service of Planetary System 8612 has been terminated. The main scenario has started." This was the moment the genre of my life changed. Okay. So let's go back over here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Alright. So it starts out pretty much the same. I'm Dakja. Dakja can mean only child. Or instead of it being like explained, it just has like a little note. Dakja can mean only child, reader, and individualist in Korean. And then it gives more detail about like how people perceive him rather than sometimes they think the name's weird. And then it goes down here. "Oh, so you're an only child?" "Well, yes, but that's not what I meant." These lines seem to be taken straight from the novel. And then my father gave me that name because he wanted me to grow up to be a strong and independent person. That's taken exactly from the novel. Perhaps my name is a curse because I've been lonely and single my entire life. Pretty much the same. This is who I am in a nutshell. Okay, and then in this area we get a little bit of a throwback to the episode 0, where he was talking about the fact that he graduated from a third-rate college and that he's currently employed as a contractor in a large corporation. It doesn't talk about his military service, so there's that. Then we go on to his hobby. We all know what his hobby is. He's reading on the subway. And then Sangha appears. And then it does introduce Sangha as being somebody very beautiful. What the novel I like from the novel, that it doesn't really say in the webtoon, because again, probably lack of time to say those things, is more of a backstory on Sangha is somebody that's really beautiful, and all the men are pining for her, and that that she's riding home with a different man. So it kind of seems like he says he's not being judgmental, but he is being judgmental a bit from the way it's written, because he says, hold on, let me see here. I'm trying to find it. There were rumors that Yu Sangha had men from the company driving her home every workday. Yet, unexpected words came from Yu Sangha's mouth. Someone stole my bicycle. So, he kind of said, like, it kind of like that what is the word I want? The kind of like locker room talk. Not really locker room talk, but around those things. What would you call it in an office? Water cooler talk. But that's kind of what it is. Like, they're all kind of starting rumors about her and how she's with a different person every single day and blah blah. So you get kind of more of an insight into Sangha. And he's surprised. Okay, so here it says the same thing too. That my team manager is away on a business trip. And then instead of it being said, obviously, the poof here, it makes more sense now with the context, because I did not understand what this poof meant. Like, for all I know, she was farting, okay? But, it makes more sense. It's a poof of perfume, and he's smelling it. And then, instead of... It does kind of lighten it up. So, I can't believe I ran into Sangha, the most popular girl at work. Her shampoo smells really nice. It's saying shampoo here, but it's perfume in the novel. And, so... she's more portrayed as somebody who's popular at work instead of popular with the men at work. Do you usually take the subway home? So it goes into more of that thing from the HR assistant manager to the finance team manager. I'll bet there's a line of men waiting to drive her home. So it does kind of say this, but it's more like an I'll bet rather than there's rumors going on. So it kind of changes the meaning and connotations a little bit in the webtoon. Actually, someone stole my bicycle. And that's when he's like, what? You commute to work on bike. Yes, I've been working a lot of overtime lately, so I thought I could use the exercise. So she says basically the same thing. And I have some personal reasons, too. I don't think she says anything about personal reasons. She just kind of says, yes, I have a lot of overtime these days and seem to be lacking exercise. It is a bit annoying, but it's worth doing. So she doesn't really say personal reasons at this point. If you've been watching with me for the webtoon, you know later on what those personal reasons are. So it's more like hinting at that fact. So it's they add a little bit in the webtoon to kind of hint at maybe something that is to come, whereas they don't do that in the novel. I don't see it helping or hurting the webtoon in this case. It just kind of seems like it is more like an ad. It's not hurting the webtoon, but it's not giving anything of value. Okay, then it does say, seeing her up close, I get why all the guys are head over the heels for her. So again, it's more like innocent rather than, oh, I've heard rumors that she is driven home by a different guy every single day. So that's kind of where the darker, more adult tones come in, whereas they're trying to make it a little bit nicer for webtoon, I guess is the best way to put it. And then he does go on to say, none of that concerns me. She and I live completely different lives, which is a big thing in this chapter. They live different lives. And then it goes on, and just so you know, Sangha wasn't the reason why today's subway ride was different. It doesn't really say anything about that in here. It just goes on to this. Pure, Prestremo, Dinero. And then... oh, so that's, so please give me some money, is what it is. But it's, the words are different. Pure, prestarme, dinero. Where it says, por favor, poor favor dinero in here. I don't know if that's maybe a mistranslation and this is the correct translation. I don't know. But it's nonetheless the same. It's Spanish. It means, please lend me some money. And then it goes on to say she's studying. She's a different breed altogether. And then it kind of throws in a little bit of humor. Where would she even use that phrase? So kind of adds like a little bit more of a humor esque part to lighten up the mood a little bit. And the webtoon, which I do have to say that I do like a little bit. I don't think he says that. No, he doesn't. But pretty much, so far, she is the same character in the webtoon as she is in the novel, which is what you want to see. You want to see a translation into the webtoon. When you are adapting something for something else, whether it's novel into webtoon or webtoon into anime or manga into anime, whichever one, the most important thing to do is make sure characters are being transferred correctly to each platform. Because if she was like, I don't know, watching cat videos on her phone here instead of reading things, that makes her character cuter rather than smart, which is something like we do not want her being portrayed as. We want her to be portrayed as somebody who, in her free time, is learning a different language. And then he does say, you're studying hard. Well, here it's working hard, but you're studying hard. And then she asks, what are you doing? What are you reading? And he's like, haha, no. That's so funny to me. I don't think he pulls away on here. He just says, instead of doing that, he says he's studying Korean. And then she does ask, is it a novel? And then here it says, I guess you could say that I'm studying Korean, haha. Where I could see how this right here changes kind of the meaning from the webtoon, from the novel to the webtoon, because here it's saying, yes, well, I am studying Korean. So it's kind of like he is being not necessarily more confident with his answer, but he's lying. Whereas here, he's kind of joking, I guess you could say that I'm studying Korean, haha, and it kind of makes it more of a joke. Whereas here, it doesn't seem like he's really joking. He's kind of just trying to hide because maybe he's ashamed of the fact that he's reading something like that. And then, Sanga, wow, I love novels. My favorite authors are Murakami Haruki, Raymond Carver, and then he's like, of course. So again, it kind of like, this part in the webtoon can be perceived a lot more as lighthearted rather than what the actual conversation was. So it's kind of more like a loss of transfer here, where their actual conversation was more awkward and they don't really talk a whole lot, maybe here and there, but they don't really talk a whole lot. Whereas here, I mean, I know it says that, oh, I can't believe I'm talking to the most popular person at our workplace, but she seems far more friendlier here in the webtoon than she is coming across here in the novel. And because what we should be perceiving this as is more small talk, where this seems like more of a conversation between friends. Because later in the novel even says that their conversation is a little bit awkward. And then he does go on to say, you probably wouldn't know even if I told you, haha, I can never tell her what I'm really reading. And it's kind of the same thing in the novel. I can't really tell her what I'm actually going to be reading. And then he goes on to say, I couldn't say that I was reading The World After the Fall by Sing Shang Song. Oh yeah, and this was an Arthur note here that I accidentally read earlier. Anyway, that's right, my hobby is reading serialized web novels on the subway on my way home from work. So I think that's another thing that it kind of changes a little bit, because here in the novel, his hobby is reading web novels. Whereas here it's like on the subway on my way home from work. There's not really, I don't remember reading any of that. I'm not seeing it as I'm glimpsing over. Although I'm not proud of my hobby, the reason today is unlike any other is, and whereas, so it kind of switches it here. I'm not sure if maybe this is as much as it puts into what episode 1 is saying, but yeah, real quickly. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So I think that may be as much as it does, because for this, well, it does talk a little bit about the Arthur too, so we'll see. But their conversation is severely cut short, in the webtoon, which again, webtoons have to when they're serializing stuff. Unless they're making a webtoon that's going to be 30-40 minutes long each chapter, they do have to kind of cut some stuff. Because if you think about it, like I said, to make a 15-20 minute chapter is a 40-hour work week. So if you're making a 40 minute, you're looking at 50-60 hour work week to do the writing, the drawing, and the final finishes on it. Excuse me. And then the other thing is, too, is like she asks him, do you want the app? And I don't think they do that here. But let's see. I don't see any mention of this right here. Although I'm not proud of my hobby, the reason today is unlike any other is. It doesn't really say much of that in here. I'm trying to look to see, but I don't see it. So I think this may just have been added. 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, because 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, or TWSA for short, which I've been reading for the past 10 years, is ending today. The other thing I find interesting is that it doesn't seem like it's actually called TWSA, at least not yet in the comics. It's called something else entirely. Ways to Survive, I think is what they said. So, that's kind of interesting. I think TWSA adds more than the Ways to Survive. I believe that's what they called it. Because it's shorter, it's easier to remember, which is what you want when you are making a webtoon. You want things that are going to be easy for people to remember, because your chapters are 15 to 20 minutes long. Some of them, not even that. I'm trying to find the next part. Okay. People might wonder why I'm making such a fuss over the ending of a web novel, but this story in particular is very special to me. So then it goes into more of what we were reading in the last chapter in the novel, and where it's saying, I've been reading this series since I was in 8th grade. That definitely has been westernized right there, because here in the United States, for us, I'm not sure how it is in other countries aside from like Japan and Korea, but 8th grade here for us is probably the last year of middle school, the transitional period. And then next year you start high school. Whereas, we just call it 8th grade. It's the same thing for, no, it's not actually. Because 9th grade, I believe, is also considered like middle school over there. I'm not sure about Korea, but I know that is how it is in Japan. And it seems like it is too, because he's, in the novel, he was saying 3rd year of middle school. So 7th, 8th, and 9th is middle school here. Over here, our middle school can start in the 6th grade. So there's 3 years, but it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I read it when I was bullied at school. When I failed my entrance exams. I don't even think, oh yeah, he did say that he was bullied. When I failed my entrance exams and ended up in 3rd grade college. So they kind of matched both of chapter 0 and chapter 1 together. When bad luck got me stationed on the front line during my military service. And then it gives, for those who don't know, military service is compulsory for all men who are citizens of South Korea. And even now, as an unstable contract worker getting transferred from company to company. Damn it, what's the point anyway? So, more from chapter 0. So it kind of just switches around, which maybe that's to help the flow of the webtoon a bit better. I think it works that way. So there's no loss going between it. It's bittersweet that the fictitious world I've been following for so many years was now coming to an end. Today is, so we already know this. So, and then it goes on to what we already found out, that there's 3,149 episodes. We find out a little bit more that it's a daily series in the novel that they kind of left out here. Because I kind of wondered that as I was reading. I was like, this thing has 10,000 episodes, and it's been going weekly. I feel like that would be more than just 10 years. But it does make sense if it was going on daily for 10 years. And then, it talks about his viewer count. I do like how this is done in the webtoon, where it says 1,202 here, and then you can see it just drop just to the 1, right? And then it says here, had around 1,200 views, but by chapter 10, there were only about 20, and then the view count dropped to 12 by chapter 50, and by chapter 100, he was the only one. And then it goes on to say, it was a story written for me and only me. So very similar to the novel there. I wanted to support the author with a donation, so we're talking about his donation. But it was hard enough for me to even make ends meet. He does say that in the novel, so I just thanked the author by writing a comment. I tried recommending the series to others, but they just criticized me. So this is different from, or maybe it isn't, but... well, it is a little bit different. So he says in the webtoon, I tried recommending the series to others, but they just criticized me. It's a great series if you can bear through it. People can be so cruel. People would either claim I was the author or call me an attention seeker. So it's very condensed here, whereas we get more of a detailed thing in episode 0 of the novel where he's saying, Kitty, kitty, shushy, shushy. Oh, he's like, hello? No. Hey, no. 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 Thank you. Sorry. So it's very condensed here. So basically, in chapter 0, he's saying that he did this thing where he put out a recommendation for the writer because he's broke. No. He's broke. And, whereas here he's saying, I did recommend it to other people, but they would just say that I was the author or the attention seeker. It's very condensed. It does get the point across, which is good because you want it to transfer smoothly, so it doesn't need a whole lot to say, but it does explain it a little bit better in the novel. Doctor, okay. And then we've got more of their thing. So it's more like just like a funny thing again. I forgot she was here. I do like those little things, but it does kind of change the setting a little bit, because here it's more like a relaxed funny situation, whereas it does come off a little bit awkward, I guess you could say, but here it's straight up awkward. There's no funny business going on, and then they mention, we started around last year, and then he brings up I should change the topic. This is all new to the webtoon. And then she says the same thing. Yeah, we had no idea what we were getting into back then. Haha. And he says, yeah, it seems like it was only yesterday. I can't believe our contracts are ending soon. Pretty similar. And then what we find out here is pretty similar, where she says, so it kind of like just... So they do say there's a little bit of pause here, so that was very smart on the creator of the webtoons portion, to where, there's a pause, so how about this be a good time to bring up what was happening in chapter 0 with their awkward conversation, because he's kind of thinking. I think that was a very good ad on the creator's portion for the webtoon to do. It flows really well that way. Let's see. I'm trying to find where where that starts. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah. And then, okay, so right here. So that's right. It seems like just yesterday, but the contract period is already over. I realized that I'd said something wrong when I saw you Sanga's expression. So her expression does change here. And then she says, I forgot, or actually, oh no, so this is him that's saying that. And then he says, I had forgotten. And so it is him saying this. I had forgot. Sangha was promoted to full-time employee last month due to her diligence. So I find it interesting here that they just said diligence and not that she received a credit for a foreign buyer last month and was already promoted to full-time employee. I feel like that wouldn't have been too difficult to add. But instead they just said due to her diligence. And then she says, oh, that's right. Sorry for the late. Congratulations. This is all the same. No, it's fine, Daksha. I haven't completed my performance assessment. That's the same. Still transferring pretty well. I don't want to admit it, but Sangha is so cool. If we were characters in a novel, she would definitely be the heroine. So she would be the protagonist. It was obvious. I didn't try, but Sangha gave it her all. I read one novel as well as Sangha studied. So it was obvious that Sangha would become a full-time employee and I wouldn't. So this isn't in here. The other parts are, or basically he's saying that they're different. They refer to it as, he says, different genres in life, where his is realism, she would be a protagonist, so on and so forth. And then, Daksha, yes, if you want, I could, so she does say, I can tell you the name of the app. And then we get the genre stuff. If I were in a different genre, if the genre of my life wasn't nonfiction, it says realism in the novel, same difference. But fantasy, could I have been the protagonist? So that's pretty straightforward with what the novel is saying. So it's transferring pretty well. Rattle. Daksha, it's okay, Sangha. I don't know. If one thing was certain. So, he says here, it wouldn't matter if you told me the name of the app or not. Whereas he says here, wouldn't work out anyway. It won't work even if you tell me the app. It's that the genre of my life is nonfiction. And the novel says realism. And in this genre, I'm no protagonist, I'm merely a reader. I think that may be added, because I don't think he says that specifically. So this is added. I think it may be a little bit of a good add because it plays into his character a little bit, because it's very on character so far from what I'm seeing with the Daksha in the novel versus the Daksha in the webtoon. So I think it definitely adds a little bit more to Daksha's personality, so I don't think it's hurting the novel. Or the webtoon, I mean. I have to live my own life. Your own life. You're so inspiring, Daksha. So this doesn't happen, I don't think. She just says, Daksha is really good, yes. Then I will live an ivory life. Sangha equals ivory. I'm not sure if this is, I should also live my own life, is what she says. So I think this may, in the novel, I think I may, lost a little bit of its intention, but maybe this is Sangha here saying, then I will live an ivory life. Let me see. I didn't know why, but this person was really worried about me. Maybe because she was part of the personal department. I was already aware of my performance, though. Daksha is really good. Yes? Then I will live an ivory life. So, she's saying here that he's inspiring instead of just really good. And then he's confused by this. He says sorry, which I think is better put than yes. And she says, I should also live my own life. I think the translation's a little bit better here. And like I said, it could just be from what I'm reading that isn't a direct translation. But I don't know. Like you, I'll strive to live my life to its fullest. Let's do this. And then again, we get a little bit more of humor that isn't in the novel, but adds a little bit to the story. Sometimes maybe adding that what I'm seeing loses the original intention, but it isn't so horribly bad that the intention's completely lost, and that's what matters. The intention should be the same. You can add a little bit to it, but you have to keep the intention. And then it just says, well, at least I got her to stop talking. That isn't something that is saying here. And then he gets a message, so that happens in the novel. Back then I had no idea. So again, it's more like a foreshadowing where it doesn't really do that here. And then TLS 123, that's nice. They kept the same Arthur name. He just says thank you. And then he says, is this the author of TWSA? So what would happen to me next? And then he says, are you the author of TWSA? So I think what's interesting here is that it probably would have made more sense if we've seen more of his messages, what he was saying to the author beforehand. So it doesn't ruin it, but it would have been a little bit better, I think, to have seen what Doctor had said before he said thank you, because here it just seems like he knew that Doctor was the one reading the story and just said thank you. And then he says, are you the author of TWSA? That's basically this is. And then again, it just there's a whole conversation going on here in the novel that's basically skipped over. And he says, thanks to you, I was able to finish my story. I also won a prize in a contest. So he does say that here. And then what TWSA was in a contest? It really is him. Congratulations, but what kind of contest? It's not a big contest, so you wouldn't have heard of it. And that's where we get a little bit of the details. I see why they left that out in the webtoon, but they're basically saying where he said, well, maybe he just doesn't want to feel bad about the fact that he only had one reader, and so he's trying to hype it up. Or maybe it's just bigger on other platforms than what he realizes. And then the Arthur does say, the series will become paid content soon. Starting with the epilogue today, TWSA will become paid content. As a token of my gratitude, I would like to send you. So he does this. And so, yeah, that's all pretty much the same. And then we haven't even seen or heard about this guy yet. But what was about to happen to the world? Some more foreshadowing, a present. After all, I was able to publish my story thanks to you. So the thing with reading a novel versus reading a webtoon is webtoons, especially because there is a lot of, I know there's a lot of novels, but there is a plethora of really good webtoons out there to read. Whereas some people who read novels, they'll pick up a novel and read it and support it just because they really love to read. Whereas webtoon readers, that's not always the case. They're looking for something to fill the time while waiting for something. So they want something that's interesting to read and maybe a little bit quick to fill their time. So there's a lot that's going on. You have to really, really think about who your designated audience is when you're making a webtoon. So I think doing this way was probably a better call for the creator, where he's adding this foreshadowing, because what that does is give people a reason to click back, give them a reason to come back next week. What was about to happen to this world? So we got the present. After all, I was able to publish my story thanks to you. That's all the same, even though there's a lot of missed content going on. And he's just like focused on TWSA, run a contest, an unknown contest. I guess he doesn't want to tell me because he's embarrassed. So this changed a little bit. Whereas he's saying that maybe the contest doesn't even exist, and he's just saying that because he feels shame about the reader count or the amount of hits. He's just saying because he's embarrassed. A present is a gift card. Oh, is it $50? I thought 50,000 won. Oh yeah, you know what? That's right. It's 5,001. That's $5. My bad. It would be great. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember because it's like, how many zeros do I take out of that now? It'd be great if it's a $50 gift card. Most of the time I just use my phone to translate how much that actually is. You have one new message. And then it's his message. It came, the present, starting at 7 p.m. So it shows it in actual email format, which is nice. And then he just says, oh, that means I have 5 minutes left. I'm trying to think here. Where is it? My novel, he just says that it'll become paid content from 7 p.m. This will be helpful. Good luck. What does it say here? Starting at 7 p.m. today, TWSA will become paid content. This will help you. I wish you all the best. So, about the same. It doesn't really change the meaning. I'll go to my favorites and then no results are found. That's weird. Do they remove serials without prior notice when they become paid content? That's not what's happened here. It just says the work doesn't exist. And nothing came up when he typed in the box. And then I do like how they did this. I didn't notice this at first, but these are the lights going off. The click is the light going off, which is interesting. Crash. What's happening? Terrorist attack. People freaking out. So overall the same here, where people are like, what is this? It's dark. What's going on? And then we get to see more of the Dokubai here. Pant. That's not something that's happening yet. Well, I guess he is introduced, and I guess he has to use more of the visualization here. Yeah. He's asking Sangha if she's okay. I don't think did he do that here? Let's see. No, he doesn't. So this could be a thing that with him asking, it seems like in here he's more caring about Sangha and what's going on, where in here it's more of a where Sangha asking Dakja what's going on. And she's saying, yes, what do you think is happening? So this is taken from it, but he adding this line right here takes a little bit from Dakja's actual character away, because it's explained in the novel that these two barely know each other, and she's holding on to him because she's scared right now, right? Which is, I think, a normal response. If you're scared of someone, you're going to cling to people that you know. And so it's a normal response on her point to be scared and clinging to somebody she knows, even if they're not very familiar with one another. But this does not happen. The "Are you okay?" does not happen. Maybe it does. I'm trying to think. No, she just asks what's going on. Yeah. And then he just says, don't worry, it's probably nothing. Again, they leave out the suicide part here, probably to be Webtoon friendly. And then 7 o'clock hits, and it was by sheer coincidence that at the moment he checked his clock. So that's pretty the same as it is with the novel. And then, ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Please evacuate. That's basically the same. They're saying run in the novel, but it's the same thing. And then she's just asking Dakja again, what's going on? Flash, crackle. The free service of the 8612th planetary system has come to an end. The main scenario will now begin. That's pretty much the same. It was at that moment that the genre of my life changed. And that's the same exact response as in the novel. And that's the end of episode 1. So, it seems like right now, the biggest things I've noticed, for the most part, it's very, very similar. The biggest differences I've noticed from the very first chapter to the thing is, 1, there's 2 chapters of the novel put into the webtoon, which is a very ballsy thing to do, but I think it translated rather well. And the creator of the webtoon adds a little bit more humor into the situations, which, like I was saying, I think it works really well for Omniscient Reader, because sometimes people do need, especially when they're seeing something visually or watching something, having those moments of respite is good. So adding a little bit of humor into the situation, even if it wasn't originally there, is a smart thing to do, because people are kind of laughing along and haha, this is great, you know, and they're not as, it gives them a moment to breathe, I guess is the best way to put it. But like I was saying, you have to be careful when you're doing those things, because you don't want the original meaning to be translated into something else. Like I said, if Sangha was sitting there, for example, looking at pictures of cats and laughing, that changes her character. She's not perceived as this hardworking person. She's more perceived as this cute person who likes cats, you know? So you have to be careful in what you're doing. I think overall, this chapter, these 2 chapters into this webtoon chapter was done very well. I think that's going to be it for today. We're already at an hour. So we're going to stop there for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. And I will see you guys all maybe next week for some more. We'll see. I don't know if it'll necessarily be a weekly thing, bi-weekly, whatever it is, but we will have more of these. So thank you guys. Bye-bye.